Hey, Harpslingers, welcome to the Harpslinger Podcast, where every week we'll be hanging out with the greatest harmonica players in the music business. And if you haven't already, if you're into music and if you're into harmonica at all, make sure you push that subscribe button over on your left or on your right, wherever it is. Also, ding that bell, and that will give you notifications and let you know when we have brand new content. Okay, I'm getting really excited here. My next guest's career has spanned 45 years in the music industry, and his style is just about as soulful as it gets. He's been heard on over 50 gold or platinum records, including 3 Grammy Awards. That's one hell of a career. I'd say he's most likely the pride of Lake Charles, Louisiana, and certainly one of Nashville's top session musicians, a beloved guy here in this community, and he's absolutely one of my favorite people in the music business and one of my absolute favorite harmonica players. Please make him welcome, everybody, the one and only Mr. Jellyroll Johnson. Jellyroll, how you feeling, man?
I'm good. How are you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing good, man. It's great to see you. It's been a little while. I think the last time we saw each other was at the Harp Heaven at City Winery this last year.
Right.
And I caught your set there. That was incredible. You were great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was a big fun. I think this is the third one that I've done with Tim Gonzalez. He put the thing together, and
he's also a great guy. Yeah.
Charlie McCoy was playing, and Buddy Green, I think, was there the night you came.
Yeah.
Big fun. You know, we each get to do our thing, and we do a little bit of playing all together. And we should have had you up there too.
Oh well, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm ready for that sort of company yet, but I'm a big fan. I don't know if you could hear me. I was in the back because I couldn't be quiet. You know, I was like, I better not, disturb these people. But I was the guy whistling really loud after all of your performances. It was real
big fun.
It was a treat to be there. Yes.
Yeah. Well, this has been an interesting year. I'm sure we probably would have done that again this year, but as you know, live music is pretty much on hold for the most part. So
yeah,
fortunately, and we have a terrible thing going on with the pandemic, and so many people we've lost. Sad, but anyway, hopefully things are going to get better, and we'll be back to doing what we love to do.
Yeah, I mean, we hope so. Personally, my band had, we had four trips this year to Europe. You know, we tour a lot in Europe. All of our dates in the States were canceled as well, and I just found out that it looks like it's not looking too good for our next trip was scheduled to go to Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and what they call the Benelux region, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, and it looks like that there's strong potential that might be canceled as well. So, I just don't know what to say about it. But hey, at least we have the interwebs here, and we can sort of communicate this way and still get our music out to the world in some form or fashion. So thank God for that.
Yeah, and thank God we're all still able to play, at least
right.
Internet or at home. I don't think anybody's stopped playing.
No. I think we're like sharks. If we stop swimming, we'll just die. It's like if we're not playing music or talking about it, it'll just be over.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back in both of our history here to the first time I met you, and I believe it was in the late 90s. I had moved to. I was living in New York City. I was pursuing an acting career, and maybe a misguided acting career, and I was really interested in the possibility of moving to Nashville and instead pursuing a recording career and live performance. And I've been a harmonica player at that point since I was about 14 or 15 years old, and though I hadn't taken it seriously until probably my late teens, I by my 20s I was knee deep in wanting to be a harmonica player, and maybe neck deep would be a better way to say it. And so I came to Nashville, and a friend of mine said, well, if you're a harmonica player, there's one guy that you have to go see. And she took me to a place called Douglas Corner. and there you were on stage with what I'd come to find out were the typical cast of characters that you run with and you do shows with at the Bluebird, Knobloch and help me with all of the Tony Arata.
With Fred Knobloch and Tony Arata, and you may have seen me playing with Pat Alger, Tom Schuyler, Don Schlitz.
Yeah.
One of the greatest songwriters, not only in Nashville but anywhere
in the world. Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to. They like what I add to their songs, and I've done just tons and tons of shows with them. Mainly at the Bluebird, Douglas Corner, Station Inn, Third and Lindsley, several other clubs in Nashville, and we've also traveled a little bit. Not like what you guys were doing, but yeah, it's kind of a. I kind of became there was no great plan to this, but I kind of became a singer-songwriter, harmonica player. And usually when you think of singer-songwriters with harmonica, it's a guy with the
rack,
playing his own harmonica. But instead it's me sitting there adding my harmonica to their songs. It's been like I said, there was no great plan to it. It was just, I guess it started mainly with Tony Arata. He and I had been friends since 1980. He moved to town not too long after I did. And when he moved to town, I said, hey, if you want to go play some of these writers' nights, I'll go play with you.
Right.
I thought, well, maybe that kind of spur him on to going out and letting people hear his songs, So that's what we ended up doing. And that's basically how all the other guys I ended up playing with heard me, was playing with Tony.
Right
and
on.
It became a really cool thing. And I'm very lucky that I got to do that still doing it for so many years.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what a couple of things struck me about you. First was that, of course I was just blown away by your style and the way you play, to me, is very lyrical. Like, I feel like you're maybe like the Sinatra of harmonica. Like, your phrasing is just like unbelievable, and you have your own distinctive style. And I know I've read that in a lot of places, and I've heard a lot of people say that about you. But it's absolutely true. And the other thing that struck me about you was what a gentleman you were, and how kind you were to me. And it was just you guys had taken a break that evening, and I made my way sort of with a little trepidation up to the stage, and I really wanted to meet you, and you just took time to you shook my hand, and we hung out for a minute. Of course, I asked you the basic questions like, well, what kind of harmonicas do you play? What kind of gear are you playing through? And you took me on stage, and you showed me, I'm just playing. I think at that time you were playing through a little Fender Champ with a 58, and I think that's what your rig was at the moment, or maybe it was a Princeton, something like that, something small.
I don't know if I was playing with Fred Knobloch, I was probably playing through an amp on a few songs. Typically, I just play through the PA.
Okay. Well, it was really cool, and I just did that. That was my first experience with somebody in Nashville, a professional that I really looked up to, and you just welcomed me with open arms. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, my pleasure. I know you came over here. I'm sitting in my living room. I think you're probably sitting in this chair right here that I'm sitting in now. But I know you came over here once or twice. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
We just hung out and played a little bit together. So,
we did.
Yeah.
I was back in 2003. I was fortunate enough to be on a TV show. America's become famous for those, and I was on one. I was on one of those, and it sort of opened up a lot of doors for me. And I'm actually, that's when I really moved to Nashville, and you and I reconnected, and you've invited me over, and I got to walk down your hallway and look at all the gold and and platinum records on your wall, and it was just a real moment, and you played, and I played a little bit, and it was a really cool day. I think we even went to the yourself and Mary Jo and my wife Geraldine and I went to you invited us to the steeplechase one year, and we hung out in the stands and watched the races.
Yeah. That was big fun. It's kind of a Nashville event,
Yeah.
you know, steeplechase horse race, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's a good time. You see a lot of musicians out enjoying that day, you know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, big event. We we kind of retired from that, but yeah, we went for many years, and it's, you know, I mean, they would draw 15, 20,000 people on a
Uh-huh.
beautiful Saturday in May, you know,
Right.
watching the horses. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nashville's a cool town for things like that. Well, hopefully we'll get back to those sort of things soon. But
yeah.
yeah, you know, I know that you're from Lake Charles, as I mentioned in the introduction, and you know, when I think of Louisiana in general, I think of great music. I mean, was there a lot of great music going on in Lake Charles when you were growing up?
Well, in Lake Charles, yeah, I mean, I heard what everybody else heard on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that when I was very little, there was a local station that played mostly blues and rhythm and blues. And both my parents worked. They actually worked at the same chemical plant. So I had a babysitter, you know, before I started school, and she would play the radio. And what I realized later was I was hearing all this blues and rhythm and blues,
Mm-hmm.
what I was hearing until, you know, when I became interested in harmonica around the age of 19, seriously trying to play it. I fortunately got turned on to all these great blues records, and a lot of them sounded familiar because
You
I know
heard?
that I heard them when I was growing up. Of course,
Yeah.
I didn't connect it. You know, at that time, I didn't know what I was hearing.
Right. Right.
Other than, I mean, I just heard everything that was, you know, popular on the radio. Of course, the Beatles had a huge influence on me, and the other influence was I'm Cajun on my mother's side. She's full-blooded Cajun. I guess I'm about 60% Cajun because my dad had a little bit of Cajun, but he's mostly Scottish and Irish background. He was from central Louisiana. My mother was from the heart of Cajun country near Eunice, Louisiana. So my grandfather would play, and there were radio stations that played what we now call Cajun music. At that time, they called it French music.
Mm-hmm.
French music stations, and I heard all of that when I was growing up too. So I guess before I started playing, those were all my influences, you know.
Right.
And we also I had two aunts that lived in New Orleans, so
Okay.
we would go visit New Orleans
Right.
4 or 5 times a year, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I probably wasn't hearing that much New Orleans music when I was a kid, but after I started playing, I started listening to a whole lot of New Orleans music when I was down there and just on records, you know,
Yeah.
and going to Preservation Hall, which
Mm-hmm.
if you probably familiar with that.
Sure. Certainly.
Started in the 60s when what they call the traditional jazz bands were kind of dying out because so many of the older musicians were passing away, just, you know,
Sure.
passage of time. In the 1960s, they started this place. I think it was originally just a coffee house or something, but it was in this very old building with just the walls just look like they're ancient.
Mm-hmm.
The, you know, on the walls, you know, so many different layers of paint just kind of gradually fading
Right.
away.
Right.
And they would play, jazz bands would play in there every night, unamplified. It's a very small place, probably holds, you could probably pack 100 people in there,
Okay.
packed, you
Right.
know.
Okay.
And sound in there is just incredible. I started going there, you know, when I was 19.
Uh-huh.
And for a short time, we had a second home, a very small condo right in the French Quarter. So I'd go to Preservation Hall just
Nice.
every night, you know,
Yeah.
when we were down there. So anyway, all those influences are, you know, kind of in there. with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. They're in your DNA for sure. Yeah. So, but you didn't pick up. Now you started. I think I asked you once before if you ever played any instruments, and I think you had mentioned to me that you had played saxophone, and then I had also heard that you played a little clarinet and flute as well.
Yeah, my first instrument was clarinet, and that started in school band, sixth grade.
Right.
So it's kind of funny because at that time they had like junior high band and high school band, so they wanted to start like elementary, sixth grade,
Yeah.
last year elementary school band. So, and it was all kind of a marketing thing. Obviously, this guy from the the local music store comes to the school. He demonstrates all these different instruments.
Right.
Gives everybody a musical aptitude test.
Okay. Right.
He would play like two notes on the trumpet. Like and then which note was higher, which note was lower. It was very questions. The last question on the test was, would you like to be in a school band? And I answered no. So, so he comes back, like a month later and says, some of you guys should really consider being in a band. You scored like really high. Like I scored 100%, of course, I'm sure it was the simplest test ever. So I was like, well, okay, all right. So I saw, I saw the saxophones. I thought, well, man, that's cool, So I talked to my parents about it. So the saxophone was like at that time $300. The clarinet was $100, and
Right.
my parents thought he's not going to stick with this,
Right.
So I ended up with clarinet. So
Right.
I played clarinet in school band. Long story short, for about 6 years, and by 10th grade. And I never practiced, it was just, just play in the band. I didn't know, all right, you got to practice this to get better,
Yeah.
Then not good enough I was in the marching band, not good enough to be in the concert band.
Okay.
But at that point I thought, okay, well, that's the end of that. I'll never be a musician.
Yeah.
So we moved, that was in Louisiana. We moved, my dad took a job transfer. We moved to Cleveland, Tennessee, which is near Chattanooga in East Tennessee. And I became friends with these guys that had a rock band and started out being a roadie for them. And
I love it.
roadie, and this is in the days, I mean, they would help, but this is in the days of Marshall amps, Sun bass amplifiers, which are like taller than me, a
Yeah.
Hammond 3 organ. We had an organ player with two Leslies, and I was a roadie. So go figure, I eventually ended up playing harmonica. So, figured, less to
Absolutely less to carry. You don't want to be carrying around a Leslie, let alone two, and the B3.
Yeah, the B3. But that's how I got involved with music again. And I was still kind of intrigued by the sax, but I was thinking, well, at the time, Jethro Tull was really big as a rock band. And a flute player, he'd like play this up and stand on one leg, and I thought, man, that's cool. So I'll get a flute, I get to buy this flute, student model. And I was getting nowhere with it. I thought, well, this would be easy because it's same basic fingering as clarinet,
Yeah.
like that. But, the way to produce notes is totally different. You're blowing across a mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was just struggling with it, So my dad's kind of an impatient guy, He saw me struggling. He was a harmonica player. He'd played just for fun for years. He would play family gatherings,
Yeah.
He sees me struggling with this flute and he says, why don't you play harmonica? All you got to do is, you got notes, you don't have to struggle to get the notes out.
Right.
So that's where it started.
Very nice. I have a similar story. I started on saxophone too.
Okay, well, I did play sax for a while.
You did play sax. Did you play a sax on the road as well?
That was kind of before I was really touring with local bands. The reason I was actually playing harmonica, sax, flute, and a little bit of keyboard.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, this is way before session work or anything.
Right.
But I was getting bands where I was like, well, that's cool. They wanted me to play sax. They wanted me to play flute, harmonica, maybe 2 songs or something. So I said, all right, well, I want to be a harmonica player. I'm going to stop all this other stuff. So that's how everything else stopped.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play harmonica. Yeah.
Right. Once it gets into your blood, I'm the same way. I thought for a minute that I wanted to, I had this saxophone, and like you, very much like you, I just didn't want to practice. I didn't enjoy My school was small enough that if you were in the marching band, you were going to be in the concert band, even if you weren't any good, right? So, I started as my freshman year as last chair, and by the end of my senior year, I had worked my way up to a first chair position, but it just didn't grab me, But we had a thing we called pep band. I don't know if you had pep band. We would play during basketball games and stuff, and the music was different then. We would play some Beatles songs, and we would play the Jazz Me Blues and stuff like that, and things that Kansas City, things like that, and I liked that. So but I never enjoyed reading the music, so I would sort of scoot down the bench and where I was a little off to myself, and I would just sort of solo on the harmonica. And one day, or one night during a basketball game, the director walked over. He's conducting, and he walks down and he's listening and goes, "Hey, keep doing that." And I was like, "What? I'm not in trouble, Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, maybe I can do something with any instrument at all." But then I found a harmonica in my backyard. I don't know where it came from. It just ended up there. Some kid or some guy walking through my backyard one day dropped it, I'm sure, and I picked it up, and that was all she wrote for the saxophone. So it's been in a closet at my parents' house, I think, ever since,
Well, that's cool. Yeah, mine are long gone. They've been sold off years ago, but
Yeah.
it's when you said it grabbed you, the harmonica grabbed you. I had the same experience. It was after my dad said, play the harmonica. I said, okay. So, but it was like it didn't feel like the sax or the flute or the clarinet. It was like something about the sound grabbed me and just pulled me. It's like, okay, I think I can do something with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, I connected with it. It's hard to describe, but it was just kind of like a feeling came over me. I guess it's that feeling. It was like, okay, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. But of course, I didn't know it at the time, But that's what.
And you were about 19 at this time, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, in East Tennessee, right?
Right.
So you did some playing in East Tennessee. You ended up playing with the country great Con Hunley and touring the country with Con Hunley, right? Yeah, and then I guess you're like, well, hey, this is something I can do. I can move to Nashville. Maybe I should make a go of this.
Yeah, he was. He's from Knoxville, Tennessee. I was living in Cleveland. Eventually moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'd done at that point touring with what we used to call top 40 bands.
Uh-huh.
It was like the top 40 was like the top 40 songs in the nation,
Right.
or whatever every week. So you would learn the popular songs, and we would play dance clubs. And at first I'd kind of played with kind of Southern rock, blues type bands. And then this band was more like a popular, we called it the top 40 band.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this was during the disco era. So I'm going out with, it was like guitar, bass, and drums. And we had a female singer who played a little bit of percussion and me on harmonica.
Nice.
So I'm playing like horn parts on harmonica.
Right.
And soloing, on, like Casey and the Sunshine Band songs or whatever.
Right.
We did, some Stevie Wonder stuff. And
Yeah.
and I was still playing a little bit of flute. So I was mixing some of that in. So, but anyway, when I moved to Knoxville, I was playing in a Sheraton lounge band. And it was a little different from your typical lounge band. We would stretch out and play Herbie Hancock songs, and we'd play everything from Willie Nelson to Herbie Hancock.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Wow.
real funny stuff. And that's where Con Hunley heard me, and he had just started touring. He was based in Knoxville. He never moved over here, so I toured with him for almost 10 years.
Okay.
But about 1984, I started, really wanting to do more studio work. I was doing studio work in East Tennessee, but I wanted to do studio work here in Nashville. So continuing to play with Con on the road, I moved over here to Nashville and started trying to get established doing studio work. And I was, like you look back on it, it all looks like a great plan, but there was a whole lot of luck involved. His producer was Kyle Lenning.
Right.
Great engineer, great record producer.
Totally.
And he produced several records on Con. Con had a few producers before that. But anyway, when I moved here, Kyle was his producer. And Kyle used me on a couple of Con's records. And one day he called me, he said, I got this new guy I'm producing. I want you to come in and play on a song or two. His name is Randy Travis. Yeah. So,
yeah.
I knew Randy Travis. He was a Con Hunley fan. He would come to our shows and hear us. But anyway, Randy was putting out his first album.
Right.
And I was lucky enough to get to play on his first album and one of his first singles. I think it was third or fourth single, a song called No Place Like Home.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so that did, I think I'm not sure if it was #1, but close to #1. Got
right.
a ton of. And I guess the other lucky break was I had a friend named Gary Lloyd, who was a songwriter who we both moved to Nashville right around the same time. And I played with him in Knoxville at the Sheraton in that lounge. It was later on in a group in the lounge that I were at the Sheraton where I played. Anyway, he called me and he was doing some demos over at Creative Workshop, Creative Recording. And so I was over there playing and Brett Mayer walked through the room. Brett Mayer is one of the greatest, again, engineers and producers this town's ever had.
Yeah.
So he sat down and started asking me, what kind of harmonica you're playing, where are you from, a little bit about me,
Mm-hmm.
So about a year and a half later, he called me to play on one of the Judd's songs.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
which he produced all the Judd's albums, and I played on, I think, 3 of their #1 singles. So, and this is all over the course of about 2 years, which is, I guess, pretty quick for Nashville.
That is pretty quick. Yeah.
You can be here for a lot longer than that.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. And you ended up playing on how many #1 hits have you played on? Just tons, right?
I'm not sure. I'm more, playing on a lot of album cuts
Sure.
too. I have to think about just
Sure.
singles.
Unbelievable though.
Several by Randy Travis, several by the Judds, Leanne Womack, Trisha Yearwood, Michael Johnson,
Yeah.
Michael Montgomery, Tim McGraw.
Uh-huh. And not just country guys either. I've noticed that you played on a Peter Cetera record. You played with B.B. King. You played with Etta James, and a group that I was unaware of, Skid Row. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, they were, I guess this was about 10 or 11 years ago, and I think it was. I'm not sure. Some of the original members, maybe not the original lead singer, but anyway, they were recording here in Nashville. And they called me to play on this song, and it was they wanted real raunchy. I brought this Sonny Jr. blues amp that I have,
Right.
My best Bullet mic, out there.
Mm-hmm.
Funny thing, they called me and they said, we should come do this session, and we may have video cameras there. We may video this,
Mm-hmm.
And they said, is this okay with you? I said, it's fine with me, but I'm at the time, I'm 58 years old and I'm bald. So you sure you really want a video? Skid Row. So when I got there weren't any video cameras there.
I love it. That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I have a question about studio. You're probably, I would venture a guess that you must be, along with Charlie McCoy, maybe the most recorded harmonica player in Nashville recording history. I would venture that to say.
Now, I would say Terry McMillan, I was definitely still, I would think, more recorded than me. He started playing on records here in '76.
Okay, I remember him. He was great.
Way before I started. Yeah, about 10 years before I started recording here.
Okay.
And a lot of stuff. So, and he, sadly, he passed away
Mm-hmm.
at a young age in 2007. So it's about 13 years ago, I guess. But I would say he's still probably number 2 as far as the amount of sessions he did.
Right.
Maybe I'm one of three. I don't know.
I think you must be, man. I don't know anybody that has. I don't think anybody could beat you there. Which brings me to another question for you, man. I mean, I'd love to know how you keep it fresh in the studio. I mean, when you're in a studio as much as you are, at such a big level with the artists that you're playing on their records, that are these are the top tier of players, top tier session musicians and producers. I mean, I've done I guess a decent share of studio work myself, and I feel like it's challenging to go in and always have something fresh to serve the song. What's your secret?
I mean, you said it right there. Serve the song. Whatever the song needs, and it may not be something totally unique. It may be. I mean, you don't want to copy yourself. You try to be in the moment with whatever's happening. And probably the hardest thing is try to copy something you did 10 years ago. I've had that happen a few times where they're re-recording something and we want it to be exactly like what you did 10 years ago. That's harder than doing something new, to me. I mean, if you really try to be in the moment and do the best you can at that moment for whatever song you're playing. That's just what I try to do.
Yeah. And I've heard you say that you still practice every day.
Oh yeah. Even more now this year.
Right, that makes sense.
I mean, anytime I'm not working, I try to do, like right now it's pretty much my practice time. I'll start around 2:00 in the afternoon, go till 6 if I can, maybe a little later. If I don't, if there's not something else going on, I mean, I'll take breaks, I'll take 10, 15-minute break, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and lately I've been, for the past several years, I mean, I love harmonica players. I'm not really listening to harmonica players so much. I'm listening to, it's instrumentalists on other instruments, guitar players, sax players, keyboard players, and trying to learn more songs. I'm really interested in jazz, and got to play with some great jazz players over in Knoxville earlier this year. Hope to do more of that, and trying to learn that repertoire. It's like I've been playing 48 years, but I haven't been playing jazz 48 years.
Right. I guess that's another animal for sure.
To learn, and the harmonica is another thing too. There's not a whole lot of, Toots Stillman's is the master on chromatic harmonica that everybody, emulates and aspires to and learns from. And there's many others. Howard Levy is the guy on diatonic harmonica, and there's not probably a short list. I mean, all over the world, there are a lot. There's some I don't know about, but thanks to YouTube, I'm hearing about a lot of. But I'm not really listening to them when I practice. I'm listening to the masters playing jazz. Dexter Gordon,
right?
John Coltrane, Miles Davis. Who else? Horace Silver, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. All this great music, and it's all so accessible now. I mean, I know you're younger than me, but it's like we had to buy albums, and I mean, thank God we had albums. We had, because all over the world you could buy an album and hear what somebody had done wherever,
Yeah.
But everything's on the internet. You can find everything pretty much. I mean, still obscure things that aren't, but give it a little time. And but anyway, there's so much, and I've spent a lot of money on records. I'm not just stealing everything,
Right.
I actually don't download things for free to keep. I actually pay for stuff if I actually want to keep. But I'll end up listening to stuff on YouTube that I actually own the records, but it's easier. It's more accessible. There, it sits right there with your phone or your computer.
Yeah.
And the younger guys, we sound like, well, I wrote, I walked 5 miles to school, like that. younger guys don't realize how easy it is to get everything now, so it's like you have no excuse for not knowing about things. So I'm trying to,
Yeah.
be aware and learn every day.
Yeah. And the technology, you're right. The technology is really helping out with that. I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to listen to different people. In fact, every harp player I've ever asked for advice from has told me to listen to other things. You got to listen to great harp players, but you got to listen to other things too. I met one of the great Chicago blues harp players back when I lived in New York City. A guy named Kerry Bell.
Oh yeah.
And I asked him, Mr. Bell, do you have any advice for a young harmonica player? And he was like, listen, you need to go listen to saxophone players. That was his advice. Go listen to sax players. So I figured, growing up as a sort of a pseudo sax player, I sort of knew what he meant. I was, I could figure that out. Okay, horn lines, horn parts. Okay, those are things that I can kind of clue into that can give me a little bit more direction, or going to make me maybe sound a little bit more unique as a player.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with harmonica players. It's like I think we're still. There's been so much incredible music come out of the harmonica, but it's like compared to some other instruments, maybe there's still less.
Mm-hmm. Right.
A lot of other instruments, So, and if we just listen to harmonica, we're just all just going to be, sound like each other,
That's right. That's right. I mean, things could be worse.
Everybody has their own sound, and that I think even more so on harmonica than some other instruments, But if you only listen to harmonica players, then you're going to sound like another harmonica player. You may have your unique take on it, but I think to expand the vocabulary, we need to listen to other instruments,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something I've been focused on for years and years.
Yeah. Well, as far as harmonica players that you listen to, I know you've mentioned in the past you were a fan of Little Walter, also a fan of Charlie McCoy, and as I listen to you play, I absolutely hear those influences, but I feel sort of like you have transcended. You're a great person to listen to for this kind of advice, because you've taken these sort of influences and really come up with your own. It's almost like sort of reminds me of the old Reese's Buttercup commercial. You put your chocolate in my peanut butter. No, you put your peanut butter in my chocolate, and out came, this something fresh and new, which you definitely have your own sound. I mean, I could put you in a lineup with 100 other harmonica players, and I'm certain that I could pick you out by the way that you play. And I think that's what all the guys listening to this, all the girls listening to this who are wanting to be great harp players, I think that's something that they could take away from this, is find your own voice.
Yeah, because you have to do that. But you're right. My early influences were, Little Walter I heard first,
Mm-hmm.
and a friend of mine gave me one of his albums and just blown me away, because at that point I'd been hearing, once I really, I've been hearing all kinds of harmonica all my life, but when you start playing, you start focusing on it. It's like, oh,
Right.
and it was basically, for the first 3 months I played, I was basically just hearing harmonica on rock records, Rolling Stones records. There was a group called Cactus that had harmonica. Some of the English bands, a lot of the English bands.
Sure.
So I heard all that, so I was kind of, okay, that's cool. And I was actually playing for the first 3 months until I met a harmonica player, Donnie Jenkins, a great guitar player who I ended up playing with, but he played harmonica, and he told me about second position cross harp. So I was trying to play everything first position.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I got a friend of mine gave me a Little Walter record, which blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after that, I heard Paul Butterfield, and I'm sure I'd heard Paul Butterfield before, but I heard him, after I started playing.
Right.
And then my friend who had a record store, Jerry Hensley, said, well, you need to hear Charlie McCoy. And who's that? So he orders this Charlie McCoy record for me, and my mind was totally blown then.
Right.
Other main blues influence was Sonny Boy Williamson too,
Mm-hmm.
with Rice Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were the four that their records I studied intently And with, what we had to do with the turntable, you'd play a phrase and then take the needle off and play it again and try to figure out what they were doing. First, which key harmonica they were using, which some of these records, that was challenging.
Yeah.
But were definitely my main influences. And, just it's somehow, your own thing comes out,
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is you can never know this instrument well enough. It's like you got to know where all the notes are, where all the bends are, where all the overblows are, where all the overdubs are. And it's like, because that's when you go to express yourself, you got to be able to get to all those places.
Right.
And that's just that's just what you got to work on. Some people say it's muscle memory. I don't know, but it's like you got to know where everything is, unconsciously or subconsciously, however you want to describe it. You got to know, because you can't. There's no visual with this. It's like
Right.
There's numbers here, but you're not looking at those numbers when you're playing.
No.
It's all right here. So you got to know what's going on, where everything is, and
That's what makes it so difficult to learn, I think.
Yeah, difficult to learn, difficult to teach. Because there is no real visual element. Of course,
Right.
People that don't have sight play instruments. So it's like you don't have to see things to play. So some people have called harmonica a blind man's instrument, because there's definitely there's no visual to it.
Yeah. I like that.
A harmonica player, of course, he's also an incredible piano player. So
Yeah. So there you go. There you go.
there you go.
Well, I know you have a couple of records out. The last couple of records out I've been listening to specifically. The others I actually have in my collection, but the two new records I've been listening to on Spotify, and I can hear this. You're bent now toward certainly toward New Orleans, and this tribute to New Orleans that you did, which is fantastic, and also the Come Rain or Come Shine record that's got a lot of the standards on there. And I was making dinner last night for my wife, and I've got those two records on shuffle, and it's a pretty romantic record for one. It's a sexy record. I'll say that. It's really, really cool. I haven't been inspired by, I'm always inspired, I would say, but this inspired me in a different way, in a different way to play things that I had not played in the past, and I was just really blown away by it, and I was wondering if maybe we could talk you into to playing something off of one of those more recent records. Would you mind playing a little something?
No, I'd be glad to. Well, thank you for saying that about Come Rain or Come Shine. That I guess it's my soul jazz record, or organ quartet.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tradition in jazz to have an organ player, playing bass with his feet, and a guitar player and a drummer, and maybe a sax player. So I was the sax player. Instead of having sax, it's me on harmonica.
Yeah.
So it's funny, because it didn't really, in my mind, it wasn't really conceived like that initially. Pat Bergeson, who played incredible guitar, and he's also an incredible harmonica player. He's played on those two records and the one before it, Songs for the Record World, and helped me arrange. And when I brought these songs over for Come Rain or Come Shine, he said, you know what? He said, I'm working for this great organ player, and this would be cool to have an organ trio record, with you playing harmonica. I thought, well, I hadn't really thought of that, and the songs were exactly like the songs that those groups would play.
Yeah.
So that's how that came about. So
it's such a vibey record, and the organ. You're right. I loved the combination. I was like, man, this organ player is a monster. He's really great. I was enjoying it.
Charles Treadway, so organ player, a local guy, great player.
Yeah.
But and the New Orleans record, obviously my influences from Louisiana and New Orleans.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that, but I didn't want to do, I didn't feel like I could just step in with a traditional jazz band.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do those songs. And but I wanted a great piano player. That was like, I'm a huge fan of Professor Longfair. So I got John Jarvis on piano,
Okay.
on guitar, and see, Chris Brown on drums, and Charlie Chadwick on upright bass. And so anyway, I just picked those songs that were, that really spoke to me, and that I wanted to do, that were New Orleans songs. And so that's where that came from.
It's a gorgeous record. It's absolutely gorgeous. And by the way, we should interject that you can pick this up certainly on Spotify. That's where I've been listening. But where can people buy this record?
I would say CD Baby, but they actually closed their store. I think if you go to my website, jellyrolljohnson.com, it probably leads you to CD Baby, which is closed.
Okay.
You can buy it on Amazon Music. The tracks, it's still on the iTunes store. You can download the tracks, and it's on Apple Music and Spotify and Amazon Music too. So, and if you search for some of the titles, they'll come up on YouTube Music too.
Okay,
So,
great. Well, I'll make sure that I include those in the underneath the video on the YouTube channel, and also Honer, by the way, who is sponsoring this podcast. They're showing this on their Facebook page. So a big shout out to Derek Frank, a great artist relations guy. Just love him to death. He's showing this on their Facebook page on Honer Music. And I'll have all of these links. So if people want to go buy these records, which I hope they should, I'll have all the links there, and they'll send them right to your.
Yeah, thanks to Derek and Drew and everybody at Honer. Honer is all I've ever played, and I'm actually a Marine band guy. So
Yeah.
kind of, old school, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, but they sound great. I mean, and that's when you have an instrument that you love. You don't want to like trade it in for something else.
Kind of like, that was kind of the only option. It was like this, and when I started playing, it was like this, what you could find in the stores, like the Marine Band, the old standby, which they don't make anymore, and the blues harp, the original blues harp for MS series. So, I played all three, but Marine Band was the one that stuck, and that's all I've ever played. I never switched. I own the Thunderbirds are great for the low keys, and I've also got some crossovers.
Yeah.
They're excellent harmonicas, but 90% of the time I'm playing Marine bands.
Right.
So.
I do enjoy the crossover in the Thunderbirds a lot. They remind me a great deal of the Marine Band, but I like the way they sound. They're fantastic.
They're the closest to the Marine Band sound that I've found.
Yeah.
So, which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is a good thing. Yeah, there's something about the wood,
Yeah, of course that's a huge debate in harmonica community. Whether the comb influences the sound. I guarantee you, it influences the sound that the player hears. I promise you that.
Yeah.
It's like okay, I can tell. I may not be able to tell if I go hear a harmonica player. I may not be able to tell what kind of harmonica they're playing. I usually can tell if it's a Honer, but
Yeah.
be able to tell if it's Special 20 or Marine Band or whatever.
Right.
But I can tell when I play it, the resonance of the wood. It's just.
It is different. You're right. I've been playing a lot of playing the crossover a little bit in certain keys, and also playing the guys that Drew and Derek turned me on to the Rocket series, which is definitely not a wood comb, but
Right.
I've been playing a lot of rock and roll and a lot of stuff that there's a lot of fast stuff in there, and I feel like I can really get around the harp really well, and they're super duper loud. I know Mickey Raphael's been using some. He said he's been using some in the studio as well, and liking those. So
I own several, and actually the Rocket Low, I've been using the Rocket Low F. I've been using a little bit live, and it's great. It's very, like you say, very loud and smooth playing, and I like them.
yeah, me too.
You
Me
used to
too.
play Golden Melodies. You still playing quite a bit, or
I'm sorry.
did you used to play Golden Melodies?
Yes, that's right. Yes, I am a Golden Melody guy for sure. I love Golden Melodies. That's kind of what I was when I was coming up. My parents would just buy me whatever harmonicas were at the music store, not even in my hometown, but the town next to us. My town's really small, and there was no music store, but they would, for holidays or whatever, birthday or Christmas, I would get a new harmonica, and so I played various honers. It was always a honer, but then a friend of mine, a guy who sort of a mentor of mine, taught me a lot on the harmonica. His name is Tim Beatty. He's from Southern Illinois, just like myself, and he said, no, you have to be playing these golden melodies. So I played those for years and years. I still play them, but these the Rockets, they've sort of been a workhorse too, I must say. Out on the road, I've been able to they stay in tune, and
Yeah, they're very. They seem to be very sturdy,
mm-hmm.
very well made, and I would say again they're close sound wise to Marine Band. It's just the way they project and everything. It's very nice product. Yeah.
Well, before we're getting close to, I wanted to make sure that we get everybody to get a good listen to the one and only Jellyroll Johnson. Would you mind? Could I twist your arm a little bit to play a little something for us?
Yeah. So this is on the Land of Dreams, and it's actually in the public domain. So YouTube won't if they mess with you on copyright.
Perfect. Good call.
Tell them they're out of their mind. Song. I don't know when the copyright would have expired on this, but and it's actually supposedly, the roots of it go back to England, and I've heard what the song did, what it was supposedly derived from. It doesn't sound anything like the song we know in America, but anyway,
okay.
It's an ancient song, St. James Infirmary.
Great, great. Jellyroll, that's. I want to just pick my jaw up off the floor right now, man. That was just fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
There's no one like you, man. No one like you. You're not only an amazing musician, but you're just a true gentleman, and I'm so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being my friend, man.
Hey, thank you for being my friend. For real, I almost hate to do this to you now because you just poured your soul out there for us. But one of the features of the Harpslinger podcast is that we have been trying to get all the artists to offer up some sort of lick of the week, however easy, however difficult, however short, however long. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind throwing us a little bone.
Okay. Well, I guess it'll be the lick of the moment because I hadn't really thought about it.
Maybe that's what we'll call it, the lick of the moment. You may have changed history here.
You mentioned it to me, but well, let's see. Trying to think of, there's like people ask me, well, what about like country harmonica? What kind of licks do you play? It's like, well, it's like there's kind of like a basic Charlie that I learned from Charlie McCoy. It's like. I don't know. That's kind of a basic Charlie McCoy thing, and it's not that far away from a blues lick. So it's like,
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's super country.
Yeah, yeah. Are you going to edit this part?
Well, I certainly can if you'd like me to, but I think the people love the spontaneity of it,
I don't know. It's hard for me to think licks, so.
I love it. Thank you so much, man. You're the best. We sure appreciate you. I hope we can do this again sometime soon.
Sure. I'm really excited about you doing this. I think it's a really cool thing. And, thanks for having me.
Are you kidding? Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother. Hey, we'll see you soon. Stay safe. Give a kiss and a hug to your lovely wife for my wife and Geraldine. And let's be in touch.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, brother.
All right, man.
That's Jellyroll Johnson, everybody. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. Go click that button, ding the bell, and we'll see you on down the road.